welcome to the introduction of Exvangelical Satanists. I'm Kinder Meyer. I'm happy to dive into what this means to me and why it's the title of what I'm compelled to share. Here, I will tell stories and explain why they inspired my theology. One thing I find important to point out at first is that I'm not anti-Christianity. I have a lot of respect for the religion that once defined me and the shape that it imprinted on my spiritual thirst. I really hope you'll forgive me. This first episode might feel all over the place. I like to get all of my information out, and I have many, sometimes seemingly unrelated interests. I just want you to get a full scoop of who I am, and I will have a better guided path moving forward. Thank you for listening to episode 1. I run my own cakes and chocolatiering business, as well as jewelry, crystals, and painting. I enjoy knitting freehand. I try to support local musicians by going to a lot of local live music, and I just go really nuts when I really love a band. And that's honestly like every time I'm out there, I just really, really love music. I have an associate's degree in baking and pastry arts. I went to school to become a pastor for a conservative denomination of Christianity 12 years ago. I like to mention this because I was very deep into this. I wanted to have this as a career path because it was very fulfilling for me. I'm an Exvangelical pagan satanic witch, Luciferian Satanist. These are all very separate paths. I just happen to follow this variety. I'm vegan for many reasons: health, planet, animals. I faced a lot of judgment and hostility over the years, but as much as it is a diet, it's also part of my spirituality. How to honor earth and animals. I've been inpatient for my mental health more than a dozen times since I was 17. I've had a spinal fusion surgery when I was 17 as well. I grew up gay and emo in a conservative town in southeast Wisconsin. I'm bisexual or something like that. I was engaged to marry a man in Quebec. I'm very happy that I did not have the Christian wedding that I thought that I wanted. Christianity was the most important thing in my life for most of my life, but when I was 25, I attempted suicide. But when I woke up, I decided I only believed in energy. The most important thing became, what can I see and know scientifically as fact, as the one thing that I believed in at that time. Ancient aliens have compelling evidence for me that brought me to where I'm at, kind of brought me out of what I was stuck in, what was hard for me to let go of. Ancient aliens kind of met me in those areas. All right, so I'm taking a leap of faith. I had scripted the beginning of this episode, but I think moving forward, I am going to just speak freely on this topic. I think that a good place to start is what exvangelical means, and I know I did go over a lot about that already, but I'm just gonna go into how I started, I suppose, how church was very important to me. In high school, I had a friend whose parents were the pastor and the youth pastor of our church, of our local church, and um, I was very influenced by Christianity during that time frame. I did have a lot of kind of like back and forth. I used to think that, oh, I'm backsliding. Oh, like something that was like something to be ashamed of. But my Christian path was a little rocky growing up. Um, I felt very attracted to evangelical churches. A lot of it had to do with the music. And I never really, really realized that, like, I have been drawn to music because I love being entertained. I love music. I love the songs. I love singing. And that was something that happened, in the modern church, that I did not see in the Lutheran church that my parents brought me up in. And so I'm like, wow, like this is such a really, really meaningful on a different level that I hadn't experienced before, the meaningful Christianity experience that I got in an evangelical church. So I got that in high school. It was like my sophomore year of high school. She moved away, and I didn't have that influence as much anymore. And then like I had like a girlfriend because I was like, this is who I am, but then it always had that big, heavy shame and guilt that would weigh on me during that time frame. So I was drawn to evangelicalism a lot just because of how it was very freeing. It was just very liberating, and it made me feel like it was for me, like it could be for everybody, and it made me feel um happy, and I felt connected to God at a different church, an evangelical church. I think I was 18. Like, I know I was like out of high school, and my sister was singing at this church. And so we went to go to this church, and the first time I went there, it was good, but it was not my first time going there that I had like the wow experience. It was probably like my second time going there. And what happened was there was a woman speaking in tongues, okay? And see, I had never seen anything like that. And so for me at that age, I felt like, wow, like this is wild. This is real. Like I just felt like it was so real because I felt like this woman speaking in tongues was speaking to me from God. And so that really kind of solidified the balance that I had on, why was that what I wanted and why did it draw me, and how could I leave? And I really, for a long time, never thought I'd leave. I felt like, there were songs that we would sing that would say, um, I've decided to follow Jesus, no turning back. And we would say that, and we would repeat that, and we would say, no turning back, no turning back. And so, those were things that just kind of like took took a hold of me. And I know that my story is not unique. I know that most people in a church of that setting have a similar story, but I just like to highlight on it because of how much I've changed. And I just want to share my story because I want everyone to feel like you can also do that. And to just question everything. And I decided to go to a Bible college. There was a pastor who had come to our church, and he was promoting this tiny little college in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I live now. And it was in this not so good area, and we all had to be like super safe all the time, and I was always really scared all the time. It's like, Milwaukee is so scary. And now I'm friends with like the homeless people on the corner of my street, and I buy them monsters and give them cigarettes. Like, I don't have that anymore. I'm very happy that I've grown up a lot since then. But I decided to go to that school. There were 28 students in the entire school. We were learning theology courses from Global University. So I actually have credits from Global University that I have not done anything with. And I actually did not graduate from that program. And I don't know if I'm going to get into that today about why I did not continue that school. I'll definitely tell that story, but I'm not sure if I'll dig into it right now. But I felt lots of joy. I felt lots of peace. I did have a really hard time while I was there. I had mental health problems, and in Christianity, it's like, oh, you have a mental health problem, you have a Satan problem. It's always like, not very sound, in their theology with the whole, it's like, you're cutting yourself or you're throwing up, like that must mean that like God, like you don't love God enough, or and how troubling that was for me, because 12 years beyond that, I know that wasn't the case, but I didn't know it then. So it was really a struggle to be so immersed in this Christian faith. We were just some kids, and we all just wanted to love God, and we just all wanted to know the Bible. We wanted to read the Bible every morning and pray a lot. And but I did, like I said, I was happy there. Like, I felt like it was a really good thing for me. And then after I left that school, I continued to go to that evangelical church that I really had a lot of experience with. And then I went to school for baking and pastry arts. And when I was in that school, Milwaukee Area Technical College, awesome school, InterVarsity Christian Fellowship then became my interest. And I was so busy back then. Like, I started growing gray hair because I was so obsessed with getting A's in all my classes. And not only was I obsessed with getting A's in all my classes, but I was spending a lot of my time working on networking for InterVarsity, and I was in text messages with students, like, come to my Bible study, and I was preparing Bible studies, and it was like, I was inviting people from my baking program, and I just think, like, how awesome of them. In hindsight, I feel like they had so much patience for me, because I'd be like, come to my Bible study, I'm talking about the Holy Spirit, and they're like, why are you talking about this? Like, we're just trying to bake, so and InterVarsity I really did enjoy for a long time. after I graduated, the leader of my chapter came to my home and I had coffee with her, and it was really nice to see her. And she was raising funds, and I was very honest with her. I told her that I loved her, but that InterVarsity did not compete, or InterVarsity's belief system did not compel me. It was very rigid, and it turned out that InterVarsity actually did have this belief that no leader in the fellowship could be LGBTQ. And when I learned that, it hurt me a lot because of what I've been through, feeling shame for my bisexuality as a kid and feeling it as an adult. And there was a InterVarsity conference that I had gone to called Redeeming Sex, and there was this woman who wrote this book called Redeeming Sex. And one of my biggest takes away from that book, and the conference, even, I was kind of like beside myself. Like, I was crying a lot because of this conference. And something that she had said was that it was in God's plan to make you who you are sexually. And so that really made me feel like InterVarsity was affirmative, like affirming of LGBTQ. It turns out they're not. So I decided not to give funds to my good friend. And I told her exactly why. And I felt great. I felt great that I could be honest. And sometimes I'm just very brutally honest. And I was still very Christian. I moved out into my own apartment for the first time as soon as I graduated. And when I lived there, I found a church of Assemblies of God, which was the denomination that I had chosen. That was the denomination of the Bible college that I went to, was Assemblies of God. And there was an Assemblies of God church on my street. And I didn't have a car, so I needed to go to a church so that I could get to on my own. And so I would walk there. And that pastor was very troubling for me. And he was kind of the catalyst out of Assemblies of God, but not out of Christianity, just out of Assemblies of God. I was very, very strongly holding on to Jesus still. It was hard for me to let go of Jesus. I did try a Unitarian church. I liked it. It was great. I like it even more now, but at the time, it was hard for me to let go of Jesus. And the church that I ended up finding afterwards was also a 5-minute walk from me, and I had no idea it was even there. And I found that church because I went online. There was a podcaster who I really enjoyed, Kevin Garcia, and The Tiny Revolution, and I found out that there were Christian churches that were LGBTQ affirming, and I didn't even know. That was a wild concept for me, okay? So I'm like, okay, I wonder if there's any near me. Probably not, And so I went onto this website that was a database for LGBTQ affirming churches, and I found Pilgrim Church, a United Church of Christ. And so that was the last Christian denomination that I was a member of and a part of, and I felt very strongly and deeply with. And the pastor of that church, I had so many questions for her because I was just so desperate. I was just so desperate for a God who would affirm me in those areas that hurt me so badly as a kid and growing up. And I felt so happy to be in that church, and they had reached out to me recently, and I told them about kind of what happened. Um, but all in all, like, church, I've enjoyed the ritual of church more than the community of church, because community is really easy to find. I have community in music now, and I have ritual whenever I want it. Whenever I decide to light candles and crystals and meditate on something or whatever it is, I like to point out that now that I'm not Christian, I am still a prayerful person. Now, prayer and Christianity can be very separate from each other, and so can the word blessing. It can be de-Christified. Like, let's de-Christify the word blessing, the word prayer, because these are spiritual terms and they're not exclusive to Christianity. So that's a little bit background of the very beginning, of church for me, and the kind of the very end of the Christian church for me. Thanks for hanging in there to hear what I have to say. I'm on a lot of medications and I've been drinking a lot of coffee, and that is why I'm sorry that it's hard to follow sometimes, what I'm saying. People will remain the same until the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of change. Yes, you might need to rewind that, but I'll say it again. But the reason why I say this, now this came from the Bible college that I went to, unfortunately, but the reason why I say this was because it was easy for me to stay in Christianity until it pained me. And it was not until the pain of remaining the same was higher than the pain of change. And so I say that because the pain of change is also really, really hard. And I almost felt like I had no choice. Like, I felt beside myself when I blacked out and I woke up in the emergency room. I felt beside myself because I felt like everything that I ever held on to, everything that I ever believed, wasn't real anymore. And it hurt me so bad. It hurt so bad to let go. But I was able to let go. And I just really hope and pray that other people out there won't have to attempt suicide to get to the pain, to get out of the pain of remaining the same. I just wanted to share my story because it was not easy for me to choose this path of leaving Christianity and choosing Satanism. And I did not choose Satanism immediately after my suicide attempt. It took me some time. I really just believed in energy, and that's when I really realized the difference and the separation of spirituality versus Christianity. Now, I only say this because the things that I really loved about Christianity, I could still have. And some of those things were prayer and meditation And that was something that I still could have, and I didn't have to feel like I needed a specific God. I was able to just pray to energy, and that's what I did. I just prayed to energy, and it was easy to let go of the pain once I realized that I didn't have to let go of the things that were really important to me. In the Mormon tradition, there's a belief that in the afterlife, one of the highest rewards that you can be given is to become a god of another planet. I find that to be fascinating. It makes me wonder if the God of the Christian Bible may have been just a regular soul like us who was gifted this immense power, and that Satan in the Christian Bible may also have been a powerful person from another universe who may or may not be alive anymore. That's why I feel compelled towards that direction of, maybe this God who I thought was omnipresent, omnipotent, all of those things. Like, what if we have the ability to become the same type of God? And I feel that the God of the Christian Bible found Satan to be a competitor, a threat, and made Satan out to be evil. And I just really like to touch on how, yes, I am a Satanist, and yes, I'm Luciferian, but I don't believe in it in an evil way. I don't think Satanism is evil, and I don't follow Satanism because I'm trying to be evil or trying to be against God or anything. I think that Satan wanted to give the gift of knowledge of science to humans, and the God of the Christian Bible found that to be a threat because the more educated humans are, the less controllable we are. And I don't want to belong to a God who wants to control me. That's where I kind of came on the other side of that. My name is Kendra Meyer. I feel so blessed that you chose to listen to me today. Come back soon. Keep in touch. I am Kendra_Rose on Instagram. My business is Kendra's Vegan Treats on Instagram as well. My cake page on Facebook is Kendra's Cakes. I've had that page since 2010. Until next time, be blessed. Hail Satan.